My brother tried to steal my apartment because I'm single and don't deserve it, so my parents hired a lawyer to help him. Hi everyone! Today's story will blow your mind, but really quick, if you enjoy this content, hit that subscribe button. Channel's been a bit quiet lately, and your support keeps it all going. Let's jump in. Original post. I, 29M, need to vent about something that's been escalating over the past few weeks, and I honestly don't know if I'm overreacting or if my family has completely lost their minds. For context, I've been living in my current apartment for 3 years. It's a great place, 2 bedrooms, modern kitchen, in-unit laundry, and most importantly, it's rent-controlled in a city where housing costs are insane. I've never missed a payment, I keep the place immaculate, and my landlord, George, early 60s, has told me multiple times that I'm his best tenant. My brother Michael, 31M, got married 2 years ago to Jennifer, 28F, and they just had their first kid 6 months ago. They've been living in a cramped 1-bedroom across town, and understandably, they're looking for something bigger. Here's where things get weird. Last month at Sunday dinner, Michael casually mentioned how perfect my apartment would be for his family. I laughed and said, "Yeah, it's a great place." I thought he was just making conversation. But then he started asking specific questions. What's my lease renewal date? How much exactly do I pay? Have I ever had issues with the landlord? Red flags, right? 2 weeks ago, he drops this bomb. "You know, James, I've been thinking. That apartment is really more suitable for a family. You're single, you go out a lot, you travel for work. Wouldn't it make more sense for someone more stable to have it?" I literally choked on my coffee. Stable? I've lived there for 3 years without a single issue. That's when my parents jumped in. Mom started with, "Well, Michael has a point. You do go out quite a bit." Dad added, "And with a baby, they really need the space. You could find a studio somewhere." Let me be clear about my lifestyle since apparently it's up for family debate. Yes, I'm single. Yes, I go out maybe twice a week, usually dinner with friends or a work event. I work in tech consulting, so I travel maybe once a month for 2 to 3 days. I've never had a noise complaint, never had a party that disturbed neighbors, and I actually know most people in my building because I'm not some antisocial hermit. But according to Michael's narrative that he's been feeding our parents, I'm some kind of perpetual frat boy who shouldn't be trusted with family-sized housing. His exact words were, "Single guys in their late 20s aren't really what landlords look for in long-term tenants. They want stability, married couples, families, people who won't suddenly decide to backpack through Europe or move in with some random girlfriend." The kicker. I haven't dated anyone seriously in over a year because I've been focused on getting promoted, which I did, by the way, but apparently career advancement doesn't count as stability. And that Europe backpacking comment? I took a 2-week vacation to Italy last year. A planned, PTO-approved vacation that I saved for. I told them all flatly that I'm not giving up my apartment, and the subject was dropped. Or so I thought. Yesterday, I get a text from Michael, "Hey, just wanted to give you a heads up. I reached out to your landlord to introduce myself. Figured it would be good for him to know there's family interest if you ever decide to move. No pressure. No pressure." He contacted my landlord behind my back. I immediately called George, and thankfully he was confused but professional about it. He said, "Your brother called saying he heard you might be relocating soon." I told him I hadn't heard anything from you about that. I assured him I have 0 plans to move. But now I'm paranoid. My parents have been texting me articles about the benefits of downsizing and why young professionals choose microliving. Mom even sent me listings for studio apartments, saying she was just browsing and thought of you. Am I crazy for being this angry? It's not like I'm hoarding space. I use both bedrooms. One's my office since I work from home twice a week. I pay my rent on time, I'm a good tenant, and I found this place fair and square. But somehow, being single and occasionally social makes me less deserving of nice housing? The worst part is how they're framing this. It's not, "Michael needs help finding housing," which I'd understand. It's, "James doesn't deserve what he has because he's not married with kids." They're literally trying to redistribute my apartment based on relationship status. I'm so frustrated. This was supposed to be a normal family dinner, and now I'm dealing with some weird housing coup attempt orchestrated by my own brother. Update 1, 2 weeks later. I wish I could say things have gotten better, but they've actually escalated in ways I didn't see coming. After my last post, I thought setting firm boundaries would be enough. I had a serious conversation with Michael where I told him to back off, and I made it crystal clear to my parents that my housing situation was not up for discussion. They seemed to understand, if reluctantly. Then last Tuesday happened. I was working from home when I heard voices in the hallway. I recognized George's voice and, Michael's. My brother was at my building with my landlord. I opened my door to find them standing in the hallway, with Michael mid-sentence. And of course, with the baby, we'd really appreciate the quiet atmosphere of this floor. George looked uncomfortable when he saw me. Oh, James. Your brother was just in the neighborhood. Michael had the audacity to smile. Hey, James. I was just dropping off some papers at the office down the street and ran into George in the parking lot. What a coincidence. There is no office down the street. It's all residential. I asked George if I could speak with him privately, and we went into my apartment while Michael waited in the hall. George immediately apologized. He said Michael had been very persistent about viewing the apartment for future reference, and had shown up claiming I'd asked him to stop by to look at some maintenance issues. I showed George my phone. No texts or calls to Michael about maintenance. Nothing. George, to his credit, said, I thought something was off. You've never mentioned any issues, and you certainly never mentioned moving. He then told me something that made my blood run cold. Michael had asked about the lease terms, specifically about provisions for lease transfers and whether family members get any kind of priority for tenancy. After George left, and assured me he had no intention of entertaining Michael's requests, I confronted my brother in the hallway. The conversation went like this. Me, what the hell are you doing? Michael, relax, I was just gathering information. It's smart to know your options. Me, your options? This is my apartment. Michael, come on, James. You know this makes sense. You're barely here anyway. Me, I work from home 2 days a week. Michael, when you're not traveling or out at bars. Me, I travel once a month for work, and going to dinner with friends isn't out at bars. Stop lying about my life. Then he said something that really revealed his mindset. Look, Mom and Dad agree with me. You're almost 30, still single, still renting. I have a family. I'm building something permanent. This apartment would be an investment in our future, not just a bachelor pad. Bachelor pad. My professionally decorated, meticulously maintained apartment is a bachelor pad, because I don't have a wife and kids. I told him to leave and not come back. He shrugged and said, We'll see what Mom and Dad think about this. Sure enough, that evening I got a call from both parents. They were disappointed in my selfishness, and couldn't understand why I was making things difficult for family. Mom actually said, Michael's just trying to provide for his family. You should be supportive instead of territorial. I pointed out that being supportive doesn't mean giving up my home. Dad's response? It's just an apartment, James. Michael's offering to take over the lease, not steal from you. You could easily find something else more suitable for your lifestyle. There it was again. My lifestyle. Like I'm some kind of degenerate instead of a successful professional who happens to be single. The manipulation tactics have ramped up too. Mom has started every phone call with updates about the baby, how cramped they are, how the baby can't sleep properly because of the thin walls in their current place. Jennifer has been posting on social media about making the best of small spaces and dreaming of a nursery. But here's the thing, I looked up their current apartment complex. They're paying $1,400 for their one-bedroom. My rent-controlled two-bedroom is $1,850. There are multiple two-bedroom units available in various complexes around the city for $2,000 to $2,500. They could afford to move somewhere else. They just want my-specific apartment because it's below market rate. This isn't about the baby needing space. It's about them feeling entitled to my good deal because they've decided I don't deserve it. I've started documenting everything. Texts, emails, the dates and times of Michael's visits to the building. I also gave George a heads up that under no circumstances should he discuss my tenancy with anyone but me. He was very understanding and even offered to write a letter stating I'm an excellent tenant, just in case I need it. I thought family was supposed to support each other, not conspire to take your home because they've decided your life choices make you less deserving. Every time I think about Michael lurking around my building, lying to my landlord, I get furious all over again. The worst part? I was actually planning to help them look for places. I know the rental market well, I have connections through work. But instead of asking for help, they decided to just try to take what's mine. I'm dreading the upcoming holidays because I know this is going to be the main topic. I'm already getting messages about Thanksgiving plans, and I honestly don't know if I can sit at that table and pretend everything is fine. Update 2, 3 weeks later. The situation has exploded beyond anything I could have imagined. I'm writing this update from a hotel because I needed space to think after what happened yesterday. After my last update, I tried going low contact with my family. I skipped Sunday dinners, kept phone calls brief, and focused on work. I thought giving everyone space would help them come to their senses. Instead, they took my silence as an opportunity to escalate. It started small. My landlord George called me 2 weeks ago, sounding apologetic. "James, I'm sorry to bother you, but I've been getting calls from someone claiming to be your father. He's asking about lease policies and transfer procedures. I haven't told him anything, but I wanted you to know." I thanked George and immediately called my dad. He didn't even deny it. "I'm just trying to understand the situation better. Michael says you're being unreasonable, and I wanted to see what options might exist." "Options for what, Dad? It's my apartment. There are no options. Don't be dramatic, James. We're just exploring possibilities." Then last week, things got darker. I came home to find a notice on my door, not an official notice, but a printed letter that looked official at first glance. It was a tenant lifestyle assessment form, asking about visitors, noise levels, work travel frequency, and household composition. It wasn't from building management. I showed it to George, who was horrified. Security footage showed Michael placing it on my door. When confronted, Michael admitted he'd found the template online and thought it might help me realize that my lifestyle wasn't ideal for the apartment. "You're trying to gaslight me with fake forms now?" I asked him. "It's not fake, it's a tool for self-reflection," he insisted. "If you honestly filled it out, you'd see that you're not maximizing the apartment's potential." But yesterday was the breaking point. I got home from work to find my parents' car in the visitor spot. As I walked up, I saw them with Michael, Jennifer, and the baby in the lobby. They were with George and another man I didn't recognize. My stomach dropped. The stranger introduced himself as Richard, a property attorney. My parents had brought a lawyer to my building. George looked extremely uncomfortable and immediately said, "James, I want to be clear that I've told them repeatedly I have no intention of changing your tenancy." Richard the lawyer started speaking in that measured way lawyers do. "We're just here to discuss potential arrangements that might benefit all parties. Your parents are prepared to co-sign a lease for Michael, offering additional security." Get out. I've never yelled at my parents before, but I was beyond furious. "All of you, get out of my building right now." Mom started crying. "James, we're just trying to help. You're being so stubborn about a simple apartment. If it's so simple, why did you bring a lawyer?" Dad tried the stern approach. "Son, you need to think about what's best for the family. Your brother has a child. You have, what? An extra bedroom you use for an office? It's wasteful." Jennifer, who had been quiet until then, piped up, "We just want what's best for everyone. The baby needs stability." She was holding my nephew like a prop, and I swear she positioned him to look extra pathetic. Michael added, "Come on, James. Mom and Dad are willing to co-sign. That shows how serious we are about this. You could move back home temporarily while you figure out your next steps. It would give you time to save money, maybe finally settle down with someone." Move back home. I'm 29 years old with a six-figure salary, and they want me to move back to my childhood bedroom so my brother can have my apartment. George finally spoke up. "I need everyone except James to leave the building now. This is inappropriate, and you're making my other tenants uncomfortable." Several neighbors had poked their heads out to see what the commotion was. As they were leaving, Richard handed me his card and said, "In case you want to discuss this rationally." I threw it in the trash in front of him. My phone has been blowing up since. Texts from Mom about how I humiliated them. Calls from Dad about family loyalty. Messages from Michael about how I'm destroying family unity over brick and mortar. But here's what sealed it for me. I found out from my cousin that this has been planned for months. Apparently, at a family gathering I missed in the summer, Michael was already talking about when he moved into my apartment, not if. They've been discussing this behind my back, planning how to pressure me out, deciding that my life choices made me unworthy of stable housing. My cousin Sarah told me, "They kept saying you'd come around once you realized it was best for everyone. Your mom even said it might force you to finally get serious about dating if you had to start over in a smaller place. They want to manipulate my entire life to fit their vision of what I should be. Single at 29? Must be immature. No kids. Clearly not responsible enough for a two-bedroom apartment. The fact that I'm successful, happy, and stable doesn't matter because it doesn't look like their version of adult life. I've made an appointment with my own attorney for next week. I want to understand my rights and what constitutes harassment. I'm also going to ask George for documentation of my exemplary tenancy and any records of my family's attempts to interfere. I never thought I'd need legal protection from my family. But here we are. They brought a lawyer to try to take my home. They've crossed every line. The only silver lining? George has been incredible. He told me privately that even if I wanted to transfer the lease, he wouldn't do it to people who behave this way. Good tenants don't ambush landlords with lawyers, he said. I'm staying in a hotel tonight because I need space to think. Do I go no contact? Do I try one more conversation? I love my family, but they're literally trying to make me homeless because they think being single means I don't deserve stability. Final update, 2 months later. I never thought I'd be writing this final update, but I need to close this chapter and share how spectacularly this all backfired on my family. After the lawyer ambush, I went no contact for 2 weeks. I needed space to think and meet with my own attorney, Patricia. She reviewed everything and said while my family's behavior was harassment, it hadn't crossed into illegal territory yet. However, she helped me draft a formal cease and desist letter, which I sent to my parents and Michael. The letter outlined that any further attempts to interfere with my tenancy would result in legal action. The response was predictable. Mom called crying about how could I threaten my own family with legal action. Dad sent a long email about disappointment and family values. Michael texted a single line, "Really? Lawyers?" "Yes, Michael. Really? You brought the first lawyer, remember?" I maintained no contact through Thanksgiving, which caused a family uproar. But here's where things get interesting. Around early December, I got a call from George. He sounded weirdly amused. "James, you're going to want to hear this. Your brother just applied for an apartment in the building. Not MY apartment. Another unit. A 3-bedroom that had just gone on the market at $3,200 per month. Almost double what I pay for my 2-bedroom. Did he get it?" I asked. "Well, here's the thing," George said. "I ran the background check. His credit is not great. And when I called his current landlord for a reference, I found out they've had multiple noise complaints and are consistently late with rent. This was news to me. All their social media posts about needing more space conveniently left out that they were problem tenants. I denied the application," George continued. "But then something interesting happened. Your parents showed up. My parents had apparently offered to co-sign the lease, just as they'd threatened to do for my apartment. But George had done his homework. He'd documented everything, their harassment, the lawyer ambush, the multiple attempts to interfere with my tenancy. I told them," George said, "that I don't rent to people who try to manipulate current tenants out of their homes. I also mentioned that their behavior had been documented and that I'd be happy to share that documentation with any landlord they approach in the future." My parents were furious but couldn't do anything. They'd shown their true colors, and it cost them. But the story doesn't end there. In January, I got a call from Michael. He was panicked. Their current landlord had given them a 60-day notice to vacate. Apparently, the noise complaints had continued, and they'd been late on rent again. With an eviction notice on their record and George's refusal making the rounds, landlords talk, apparently, they were having trouble finding a new place. "James, we need your help," Michael said. "Can you talk to George? Or maybe help us find something? You know the market." The audacity. After everything, he wanted MY help. "You mean you need help from the single immature guy who's obviously not ready for independence?" I asked. "Come on, I was just stressed about the baby. I didn't mean it. You meant it enough to hire a lawyer." The call ended with Michael angry and me unmoved. The last 2 weeks have been the most dramatic. My parents, desperate to help Michael, ended up co-signing a lease for a 2-bedroom apartment in a less desirable part of town. The rent, $2,800 per month, significantly more than my place, with none of the amenities. The kicker? It's a 45-minute commute for Michael's job versus the 15 minutes from my apartment. But here's where it gets worse for them. Because my parents co-signed, when Michael and Jennifer couldn't make February's rent in full, apparently, moving costs and deposits drained them, my parents had to cover it. They're now on the hook for a lease they can barely afford to support, for an apartment that's worse than what Michael had before. Yesterday, I got a text from Mom, "James, we need to talk. This situation with Michael's apartment is becoming difficult. Your father and I were wondering if you'd consider helping with some of the costs, just temporarily." Family helps family. The same family that tried to make me homeless wants me to pay for the apartment they co-signed for? The irony is incredible. I responded simply, "I'm sorry, but I need to focus on my own housing stability." I'm sure you understand. The aftermath. Michael and Jennifer are stuck in an expensive apartment they hate. And my parents are financially strained from co-signing. They're all banned from my building. George put them on the no-visit list. Extended family now knows the whole story because I was done being quiet. I'm still in my beautiful, rent-controlled apartment. The family group chat has been quiet lately, but I heard from Sarah that there's been fallout. My aunt, mom's sister, apparently told my parents they got what they deserved for playing favorites and trying to redistribute James's life. My grandmother, who I thought would side with them, surprised everyone by saying, "Why should James give up his home? He works hard for it." As for me, I'm doing great. I got another promotion at work. Turns out, being single means I could focus on my career. Who knew? I'm considering getting a cat since I have all this space to myself. And George, he gave me a small discount on next year's rent for dealing with a difficult situation gracefully. I learned something valuable through all this. Family isn't entitled to destroy your life because they think they know better. Being single doesn't make me less deserving of stability. Not having kids doesn't mean I should live in a studio. And sometimes, the best revenge is simply living well while others face the consequences of their own entitlement. My door is still open for genuine reconciliation, but only if they acknowledge what they did wrong. So far, all I've gotten are requests for money and complaints about how unfair their situation is. Funny how it's only unfair when it happens to them. To everyone who supported me through this, thank you. To anyone dealing with similar family entitlement, stand your ground. Your life choices are valid, and you deserve respect regardless of your relationship status or family situation. And to my family, if you're reading this, I hope you learned that trying to manipulate someone out of their home because you don't approve of their lifestyle is not just wrong, it's a strategy that can spectacularly backfire. I'm keeping my apartment. And yes, I'm still single. And yes, I still occasionally go to dinner with friends. And somehow, despite all these flaws, I'm the only one in the family not struggling with housing right now. Karma's a real thing, apparently.